All right, finally, we're going to get into our formative checkpoints. That's right, you've made it to the formative checkpoint section. Yeah. Now, within the formative checkpoints, you're going to find there are 3 within Unit 4.7. Lesson Series 1 has its own set of formative checkpoints, Lesson Series 2, and then Lesson Series 3. Now, I think of a checkpoint like when I used to play a lot of racing car games. So when you're playing that game and going through that race, you have a checkpoint, right? You can check in, see what your time is, see how you're doing, and then make any adjustments. You can choose to speed up, slow down, right? If this was a real track or a real game, then you would need, if you miss something, you could go back. Then after you have what you need, you move forward. So you're going to do the same thing with these lesson checkpoints. Embedded in the curriculum, you're going to see purposeful pause days. You're going to see different days there for you and different ways for you to re-engage your students, to take a moment to stop and see where they are and make sure that they are ready to move forward. Actively assessing students before it gets to the milestone of the expert task or the apprentice tab. I want to make sure we are assessing students by utilizing these formative checkpoints. These are your literal test prep questions. Let's take a look inside of our formative checkpoints for lesson series 1. Again, these are going to open up in Kami because when they are opening them up inside of Kami, they're then able to write directly onto the document. Now, if you notice, this has made a copy directly for me. And when I'm ready, I'm going to select text box directly here, drag this over, and then you'll be able to write directly on this, and so will your students. Now, depending on what online platform you are using, we know elementary school still has the capability to use Google Classroom. Many have moved on to Canvas. Our office fully supports the utilization of Canvas. However, if you are still using Google Classroom, you can upload this to your Google Classroom for your students to complete. It is embedded within Google Classroom now. You're able to do so and then actively push out this to your students. Now, I'm taking a moment here to stress this because the more students can actually interact with this technology, we know it's going to be beneficial to them because a lot of their assessments are online. Now, of course, if this doesn't work for you in your classroom, we do have those formative checkpoint booklets which were sent to your building. If you don't have enough, then this is a great way to make sure that all of your students have access to this lesson checkpoint. Now, for the lesson checkpoints, you'll find again that there are 3. For lesson checkpoint number 1, there's a question here. This one has a chart, 2, and then 3. Remember, you yourself want to do this ahead of time prior to teaching this unit or prior to teaching this lesson series so that you are prepared to give your students the feedback and you have your own answer key and guide. If you would like to be connected with an additional 4th grade teacher, please let us know, and then we will create a cohort for you all to interact with each other and share ideas and perhaps collaborate together. Let's open up Lesson Series 2. And as we open this up, let's think about how this is going to address those key standards that we unpacked, right? And even if what we have here is not necessarily on our milestone, it may very well be on their benchmark. It might be on their MCAP or their state assessment. So keep that in mind. Lesson Series 3. Here we have a literal image of the protractors. And then at the top, we have the I can statement. So I used to tell my students that this is their job. They need to make sure they can do these items here. And if not, put a question mark beside what they need help with. Write me a note. Don't get there. Don't stay stuck. Why can't this be a form of communication? It can. And after students have submitted their assignment, a simple X if they got it wrong, it's just not enough. Have to give students actionable feedback the same way as if someone were coming to your classroom and give you a review or give you an observation and just rate you basic all across the board. Well, you want to know why. Or all proficient. Or, hey, you got all distinguished except for this one area, but they don't tell you what that area is. It's important for us to be as specific as possible so that our students can then grow. After students have completed their formative checkpoints, let's talk about what they should be doing with those formative checkpoints. You can use these formative checkpoints to then go back into your unit or your classrooms and create flexible groups. This is a particularly powerful tool. You can reassign them these standards that directly correlate with their checkpoints in Dreambox. You can pull a group of students, build on that conceptual knowledge, look at the progression that came before this in previous grade levels, and figure out where those gaps are. And what I'm saying here not only applies to 4.7, but it applies to all of the units. So that's something you can be doing. And again, if you need help, you are welcome to contact me for office hours so that we can help you. And contact your numeracy coaches to make sure you're able to dive into the data that you should be collecting for your student. If you need help grading, if you need help figuring out what the right answer is, it's a safe space. Let's grow together. Thank you for joining us for Unit 4.7. We look forward to seeing you complete the remainder of this course.